Greetings, all you humans out there. I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, coming at you with another episode review of Star versus the Forces of Evil. This time it's Season 4's Episode 5A and B, titled Yada Yada Berries and Down by the River. So we open up with the newly christened Queen Eclipsa, basically taking on her new role as queen and kind of basically trying to start this Queen's Monsters Breakfast, basically to kind of reincorporate, well, straight up incorporate the monsters as part of the, human community to a certain degree, to treat them as equals. However, when she asked Manfred why it seems like none of the monsters showed up for the breakfast, it actually turns out that they did show up and they're eating out of dog bowls for, just some reason. And for the most part, the monsters seem content with this at first. But, Eclipsa is not having any of it. And she orders Manfred to give them actual dinnerware to actually eat out of. And Manfred is acting like a bit of a pompous ass about it. Like, oh, she wants to use it in good china for the monsters. Her Royal Highness. It's just like, shut up, Manfred. And that exactly pretty much happens when he of all things goes to just eat out of Queen Eclipse's bowl, which is just like, dude, no, fire this guy right here, right now. That's disgusting. And he gets his comeuppance when he is turned to stone by trying to consume, what was it, uncooked oatmeal from Eclipse's bowl. And as is revealed by Glossaric, it's because the bowl was filled with yada yada berries, which is essentially goes, that is just like, if you eat them, yada yada, you're stoned. Like, but it's such a very simple thing too. I don't know why they call them yada yada berries. It's just like, bam, you're turned to stone if you eat them. They're petrification berries. Why yada yada berries? Whatever. But after finding out that Glossaric is pretty much immune to them, Eclipse is pretty much laid back over this fact. She's just like, well, that's just part of being a ruler, having people out to kill you, basically. But Star is having none of this, and she is determined to track down the person who is trying to feed Eclipse these yada yada berries. So she actually goes to the Assassin's Guild of all places to seek out who might have been trying to assassinate Eclipsa. Here she actually runs into, of all people, Rasticor, who is still growing back from his arm, but he seems to be making it for the most part. It feels like he's grown back a little bit faster than he did last time around. But, he wants nothing to do with Star, especially given that each time he runs into Star, something bad happens to him, or he has to regrow himself from just his friggin' arm or something. So he basically gives up one of his, accomplices in the Assassin's Guild just to kind of get Star to go away. And this accomplice is Babs, who was actually out sick for the day. And as we come to find out, she did actually take, Babs has pink eye if you didn't notice, so, and Marco being very nonchalant about his usual over cleanliness, does not seem to mind sharing a cup of tea with the very obviously sick girl. But she does give up that she was hired by, she got the supply of, yada yada berries from, someone specific, namely Apothecary Sherry, who, after a little bit of bribing, actually gives up a monster named Reuben as being the person she had, got the yada, she had given the yada yada berries to. And after confronting Ruben out of this, we actually have it revealed that he was one of the monsters who was at Eclipse's dinner. And in fact, he had actually did buy the yada yada berries to poison her, but it was only because of the fact that she had had the monsters eat out of dog bowls. But he actually never got around to it. He had only just recently gotten the yada yada berries, namely making it so that he wasn't the one to actually try to get Eclipse at least this early in the game. So Star goes about confronting Apothecary Sherry yet again to get some answers as to who else might have bought yada yada berries. However, Apothecary Sherry yada yadas herself in order to hide her clientele. That is some mean work ethic right there, like geez. But hey, that's the code of the vendor. You never sell out your clientele or you lose everything right there and then. So, but they do actually end up finding the list of clientele in Apothecary Sherry's cart, and they actually end up arresting everyone on that list. Which actually just brings up the question of like, man, why are y'all going around yada yadaing each other like this? Jesus, people. And, Star tries her best to appeal to the humans as a whole, just to be like, hey, look, we survive, we adapt. I know you don't like Eclipse for the most part. You don't feel that you can trust her. But, this isn't the way to go about this. We've risen above other things. You gotta accept that she is your new queen. However, the humans are having none of it because they just don't feel that they can trust her, especially given that she has, taken them off their lands, which we come to find out later is lands that originally belonged to the monsters. But not just that, they've also, Eclipse has also, they have this fear that one day Eclipse is just going to have them consumed either by her or once she frees Globgor, going back to the previous episode with Romulus. So that fear is very set in stone in the minds of the humans, this innate distrust towards Eclipse, especially given how much love she has for monsters, which just, it's this bigotry angle just gonna, I guess, carry on into the very end of the season. But man, they are really driving this home. I'll give them that. They are just doing what they can to really point out the hypocrisy and the needlessness of their basic racism that there is within the hearts of the humans. And ultimately Eclipse even comes in and tells Star, look, I know what you're trying to do, but this isn't right, just capturing all these humans and going on this witch hunt. So ultimately she decides that she doesn't want to give the humans any more of a reason to distrust her, so ultimately she frees all of them. Unfortunately, this doesn't really do much in order to quell the minds of the humans, with a lot of them saying they still don't trust her for the most part. And even Star's just kind of taken aback by what Eclipse chose to do, simply because of the fact that it's just, who knows who amongst them could have been the one who tried to assassinate them. But Eclipse brushes this off, saying, look, this is the state of being a ruler. You can't please everyone, and there's going to be people who try to dispose you when they don't share your viewpoints. But, maybe that should give you an idea to turn over the crown, maybe? I don't know. It's just, it's a very conflicting statement. I don't think that's the right word for it, though. I feel that it's one that raises a lot of questions in terms of how do you actually go about integration. It really makes you wonder just how difficult it probably was in a lot of southern states that, if you live in the U.S., how a lot of southern states still had various, segregations. Black people could only do one thing or live on one side of town. White people did the other. Never should the two meet. Separate drinking fountains and all that good stuff. And honestly, it's only been in the past 20 years that you've almost seen it, this, segregation completely, almost completely abolished. It still exists in places even to this day, and even with that, there's still heats of racism and judgment and all this good stuff. So a very topical matter that they've chosen to go with for this final season. But honestly, ever since the you know Muni Dependence, that one episode that actually showed that the monsters actually weren't that great at combat, that we actually saw that maybe the monsters weren't completely in the wrong in terms of how things went down with the humans. We also see that Marco got pink eye, which is just like, Marco, that's your own damn fault, bro. But ultimately, Eclipse says that she'll do what she has to try to one day win over the hearts of the human people. And honestly, this, the way she's going about this actually really does go into what Star was trying to tell her, don't, just try to force people. It feels like they're trading this lesson back and forth between the two of them. Just not to, completely, fall in with this idea of just trying to force people to have the same viewpoints at you. They have to come to the conclusion on their own. And that ends the first half of this episode. We then move to Down by the River, where we actually end up seeing this family of humans who are slowly making their way to a home, which is way too oversized for them. And this is the Maisley family. Some very simple people, idiots. And they actually end up running upon I think it was Monster Mim, who is one of those, I forget what episode we saw him first appear in, but as it turns out, this house had actually, that the Maisley family had called their own, this oversized house for the most part, is actually one that, the monster family originally owned. In fact, it's one where, that one of the places that ultimately Eclipse had turned over to the monsters because, they originally lived there. It was originally their place of residence before they were kicked out. It's just like, hey, this house is big. It's a little too big for you. This is a monster house. It makes sense for us to live here. Which, again, shows the simplicity of the human people represented within the Maisley family, as Monster Mim kind of just kicks them out. It's just like, yep. Too bad for you. Sorry, guys. And so they go off into the woods just trying to find a new place. We then have them come across, River and Moon, as, they're pretty much just being bored out in the forest. They haven't really, they're just kind of living without really any purpose for the most part, until the Maisley family, who are just like, oh man, Queen Moon Butterfly, oh my god, I can't believe it's you, and all that good stuff. Hey, can you help us out? Can you help us get these monsters out of our place of residence so that we can go back to our homes? And, ultimately Moon's just like, well, why don't you just move someplace else? And at first I was taken aback by how nonchalant she was about this, but it's just like, yeah, well, that's the way things are. That's the way this kingdom is now. Why would it be hard for you to just find a new place? Which is kind of unreasonable to think that people could just up and leave their old family, their old lives behind for the most part. But honestly, once you find out more about the Maisleys, it's just like, yeah, you guys really just don't think things through. As we continue to see that, Moon and River are kind of not quite right about how they're living. They can't seem to really get it down for the most part, until Moon goes looking for some clean drinking water, only to discover I think it's Maud Maisley, the wife, just washing their clothes after they fell into like this slime trap or something and contaminating their water supply. And Moon's just like, hey, how about you move someplace else, someplace not where we are, only for them to move even closer by, of all things. So it's just the incompetence of these humans is just on full blast, and they've always just kind of been very simple, but I feel that it's very much highlighted here just how clueless the human population are, and how they try to just annoy, River and Moon at every turn, to the point where they end up setting up a fence around the perimeter of the land they own. However, the Maisleys still continue to just badger them about very stupid, simple questions, where they're just like, hey, can we eat this? Only for them to be holding up this dangerous, poisonous egg, which, Merrick Maisley just drops right on River's head, and, releasing this intensely poisonous creature and its various offspring upon the butterfly little campsite here for the most part. And it just continues to piss off Moon at every turn until we get to late at night, where Moon is awoken, is woken up by the sound of the Maisleys making an intense racket outside to ward off this guy called the Hook Man, who we come to find out is actually just a scam artist trying to sell people home insurance and stuff like that. But, they just continue to ignore Moon whenever she's just like, go away, we don't need you, just get out of here, this is our property, go away. And she just completely flips on them at the end. She's had enough, and she tells them to go away, get off their property, get out of here. And the next thing you know, you see Moon baking in the morning these explosive pies, basically for the purpose that I can only guess, to kill the Maisley family, and gets a catapult ready to just assault them. And she's just gotten so fed up with them, creating a mode and various things that you would see in a castle, and then we kind of get to the whole idea of this, that we're just seeing Moon basically adapt to the ways of a castle, even creating a lookout and all that. However, they notice that the Maisleys are nowhere to be seen, and so they ultimately go looking for them, only to find that they've been looking for a new place to live all night with very little success, losing their belongings in the process. These people are too simple to live on their own. Darwinism is going to kick in and they will die. And so ultimately Moon, feeling a bit bad about this, and honestly I don't feel bad, these people just need to die for the most. Do not let them continue to breed. But, Moon feels bad and ultimately takes all of them back into their encampment just to show them how to, forage for food and all that good stuff. Only for more humans to show up, and we basically see the development of a new human kingdom for the most part. I mean, for the most part, it's a good thing, as it does show that, Moon and River do in fact have the ability to lead a populace to a better tomorrow. But it also just shows just how nearsighted and how much the populace needs to be controlled, and I feel that sets a very bad message for, but ultimately you could play this off in the fact that they're human, so they are not like us higher, farther thinking humans. But I have mixed feelings about this B story that just oof. But hey, tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. What part did you enjoy for the most part? Were you more interested in the yada yada berries, or did you enjoy seeing things with Moon and River? And how do you feel about the fact that they will seem to be starting up a new colony for the most part? And actually taking a bit of solace and enjoyment into, becoming leaders of the community once again. It's finding that it suits them in the long run. And hey, if you liked this video, feel free to leave me a like. If you didn't, because I know this video's like 20 minutes long at this point, feel free to leave me a dislike. And hey, tell me anything I might have done wrong in the comment section below so I can use it to better my channel for future videos. But until then, hey, how about subscribing? Because I'll definitely be bringing you more yada yada tastic episode reviews of Star versus the Forces of Evil. But until then, kill your neighbors. Bye.